Emil, it's Emil Guillermo. Emil, I'm up to you. It's Friday. Half the world is like taking off because here comes the weekend. This is my way to quietly quit the long Labor Day. Of course, on a Labor Day, you quietly quit. How are you? How are you doing? This is our micro talk show of the AAPI and the AAXs. That's what I call it, or the ALLs, all the rest of it. You don't have to be Asian to listen to this show. Of course not. Welcome to the program. Emil Amok's Takeout. My takes on all things considerable. We have a normal Friday show, I might say. We're here live Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, and we are slightly ahead, like 158. So that means you get the lanyap, and the lanyap is where we talk about stuff. We got a good show. We got our normal Friday guest, Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez. He's here with us. We've got everything working so you can actually hear him. Although we did come with an American Sign Language guy, so that maybe, if his Wi-Fi didn't work, you can communicate with him, or he can communicate with you. No, just kidding about that. We also are going to talk about Joe Biden's Soul of America speech. I liked it. Of course, I even liked the Marines. A lot of people are kind of upset with the Marines. I don't know. The guy's commander-in-chief. I liked it. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Bandy Lee, who's a professor, tried to get her gig back at Yale. She was the one who blew the whistle on Donald Trump. It was kind of controversial because Yale felt that she didn't see Trump. So how could she diagnose him as a psychologist? She said, we'll get into that. She's not getting her job back. Also, I want to talk about Jackson, Mississippi a bit. And we'll bring in Dan Gonzalez to talk about that also, because he's a man of the world, professor, college emeritus. That means he's better than the ones who are there because he was smart enough to get out. No, he was old enough to get out is what it means. Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University. We'll bring him up in a bit. But I want to kick off the show talking about this play I'm in. Yeah, I'm in this play. It's called The Conductor. The Conductor, Emil? Yeah, it's called The Conductor. The Theater for the New City. It's in New York City. They're doing a reading of the play The Conductor. It's a play in 2 acts performed in 4 live streamed virtual readings. Oh, a virtual reading? You mean sort of like your talk show, Emil? No, it's more artistic. This is a spontaneous explosion before your very eyes. That's what we're doing here. But The Conductor is a play written by Ishmael Reed, directed by Carla Blanc. Theater for the New City, 155 First Avenue, New York City. Of course, it's virtual, so, you can be anywhere in the world, but for the record, Theater for the New City is on First Avenue in New York. Thursday, October 13th, Friday, October 14th, Saturday, October 15th, 8 p.m., Sunday, October 16th, a matinee at 3. Oh, my God, it's like a real production. They're selling tickets for this, and it's $18 at theaterforthenewcity.net. Now, as this press release that was just handed to me within the hour, as the Anglo-American domination of American culture, okay, kind of a wokey sentence, but true, the Anglo-American domination of American culture continues to crumble. Panic has set in. Eastern colonists and their West Coast stringers strike out, having discovered that their Anglo-centric education is inadequate when analyzing the complex history of North America. They dismiss the challenges from fresh points of view about this history with buzzwords like woke, identity, and political correctness. Men who dominate the opinion industry, whose views reach millions, complain about being canceled. Their coverage of the recall elections in San Francisco and some of the most respected Eastern publications was shrilly when the usual white male columnists, both left and right, weren't distorting the facts surrounding the recall of both the three school board members and the San Francisco district attorney. They recruited their Anglo-Chinese and Anglo-Indians as surrogates. In San Francisco, the school board recall was begun by an Anglo-Indian. Ishmael Reed, he wrote The Haunting of Lin-Manuel Miranda, which exposed the billionaire-sponsored musical Hamilton. He's also done The Slave Who Loved Caviar. Reed opposed the official line promoted by the Andy Warhol Foundation that Warhol was a benevolent mentor to Jean-Michel Basquiat's servile mentee and, quote, mascot. Now, with his newest play, The Conductor, Reed challenges the billionaire's manipulated use of the recall to overturn the wishes of the electorate, not only in San Francisco, but elsewhere. This is Ishmael Reed at his, well, this is what Ishmael does. He asked me to play a small role. I said, yes, I will be there. I play a commentator of all things. I am Gabriel Luitaldi. And it's a small role, but this is a play of our times. And if you must, I mean, I read the play, and the comparisons to GBS, George Bernard Shaw, I think are appropriate. I don't think I besmirch Shaw, all you Shavians out there. Ishmael is, in his own right, a great writer, American letters, a man who has brought new voices, new perspectives onto the scene. And now, as I asked him, why are you turning to the theater now, Ishmael? I mean, he always has. I mean, he's multi-platform. But it just seems that in plays, you can get across a lot of the things in this artistic way that you might have in an op-ed or in an essay. And I'm glad to be part of this. It's The Conductor. And you can get your tickets by going to the website, theaterforthenewcity.net, theater for thenewcity.net. The Conductor, coming October 13th through October 16th. It's a reading. It's online. It's virtual. Tickets, $18. Go to theaterforthenewcity.net for your tickets. And now with our talk show implements, we begin Emil Amok's Takeout. Hi, welcome to the program, My Takes on All Things Considerable. I am the aforementioned Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Today, what can I say? We have to talk about, we got to talk about Joe Biden and his speech last night. And I thought, I saw it and I wasn't terribly moved by anything that the Twitterverse got excited about. Oh, what are those two, right? I mean, they got really upset about the two Marines. And I just figured, come on, the two Marines, I think he's the commander in chief. He can use whatever implements he wants. They're not just props. I mean, I kind of thought, yeah, it's okay. This is the Soul of America speech. This is the commander in chief holding forth. And I particularly dug it. I'm using that phrase, the Soul of America. I initially, when I heard the speech, I thought, come on, Joe, you need a little more passion. Need a little more passion in there. And it was slow, but he got there. I mean, he had to start off with a cough. That was bad. But he got there, and I don't think it was a bad. I think it was far more nuanced than people think. It was direct. It was political. He's a president. He's been waiting to give a speech like this because, look, let's face it, we've all felt this way about where we are in America today. And it's about time that the leader of the free world just called it, just said, this is where we're at. I'm going to play some bits from the speech now, and then we'll have, have a little commentary. Then I'll bring on Dan, Professor Dan. But this is Biden last night.
We, the people, are the true heirs of the American experiment that began more than 2 centuries ago. We, the people, have burning inside of each of us the flame of liberty that was lit here at Independence Hall.
So you get the sense he's laying it out historically, right? This is our legacy. This is the Civil War, suffrage, Great Depression, World War, civil rights. That secret flame still burns, he says. And this is the thing about Joe Biden. It's coming from a guy who you trust. This is the avuncular notion, the link to history that we're all part of. That's why he was there at Independence Hall last night. And that's why this speech is worth our time, the soul of America.
Now in our time, as we build an America that is more prosperous, free and just, that is the work of my presidency, a mission I believe in with my whole soul.
I trust Joe Biden when he says that, when he says my whole soul. I don't trust anything that Donald Trump says. How can you? How can you trust anything, Donald? So he's speaking from the heart here, Joe Biden.
First, we must be honest with each other and with ourselves. Too much of what's happening in our country today is not normal.
And now here's the big punchline. He doesn't say F. POTUS, former president of the United States. He doesn't say that other guy. He comes out and says it, and this is what you have to pat Joe Biden in the back for today. You got to give him an attaboy, no matter what stripe, political stripe, that you bandy about. You got to say, let's call it the truth. This is what's happening, and our country is worse off today because of this political force that remains.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
Can you be any more clear than that? Can he be any more clear than that? And we know it's a minority within the Republicans, but Donald Trump is hanging around like no other former president. He's hanging around, he's obstructionist, and with his MAGA Republicans, they are a threat, as Joe Biden said, to the
very foundations of our republic. Now, I want to be very clear up front.
That deserved an applause break.
Not every Republican, not even the majority of Republicans are MAGA Republicans. Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology. I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans. But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans. And that is a threat to this country.
See, dominated, driven, and intimidated. That's true. That's the Republican Party. And I don't think anyone has been this direct about what we're facing in our country today, like Joe Biden was last night.
These are hard things, but I'm an American president, not a president of red America, blue America, but of all America. And I believe it's my duty to level with you, to tell the truth, no matter how difficult, no matter how painful. And here, in my view, is what is true. MAGA Republicans do not respect the Constitution. They do not believe in the rule of law. They do not recognize the will of the people. They refuse to accept the results of a free election. And they're working right now, as I speak, in state after state, to give power to decide elections in America to partisans and cronies, empowering election deniers to undermine democracy itself. MAGA forces are determined to take this country backwards to an America where there is no right to choose, no right to privacy, no right to contraception, no right to marry who you love.
Hey, that's what got me. No right to marry who you love. If you're Asian American, you know what that was like. If you have forebears, your parents, your grandparents, who were restricted by the anti-miscegenation laws, the anti-intermarriage laws. I mean, Joe Biden was direct, talking about the threat that Republicans are posing to the state houses around the country that would change results of free elections. He's talking about the MAGA Republicans who don't believe in the rule of law, refusing to accept the results of a free election. This is about as direct as it gets to get your president, the leader of the free world, coming out and saying, this is what's wrong. And for anyone to deny this is just absolutely, you're denying the last 8 months. This is what's happening.
They promote authoritarian leaders and they fan the flames of political violence that are a threat to our personal rights, to the pursuit of justice, to the rule of law, to the very soul of this country. They look at the mob that stormed the United States Capitol on January 6th, brutally attacking law enforcement, not as insurrectionists who placed a dagger at the throat of our democracy, but they look at it as patriots. And they see their MAGA failure to stop a peaceful transfer of power after the 2020 election as preparation for the 2022 and 2024 elections. They tried everything last time to nullify the votes of 81 million people. This time, they're determined to succeed in thwarting the will of the people.
So that's Joe Biden. That's Joe Biden last night. And I thought he did it. He was direct in pointing out what the Republicans have done under Trump and continue to do, even though Trump isn't even in office. And I think he could have delivered a different kind of speech. But let me bring on Daniel Field Gonzalez, College of Ethnic Studies, American History, Asian American Political History, San Francisco State University. Hi, Dan.
Hello.
So what
Good
did
to see you again? Good to see you again, Emil.
Good to see you. So I played that speech because I just know it's important. I thought the soul of America hit all the notes that it needed to. What did you think?
Yeah. Everything he said was one, factual, and the way he said it was two, directly confrontational. And it's about time. I'm wearing my Joe Biden synthesized shades. They're my official Ray-Bans.
Yeah.
I
You
have
look a little
had
like
these, I've had these for more than 30 years, but nonetheless, I stopped wearing them because Joe wore them. But after his speech, I want to wear them again.
Yeah. Well, do you think, I mean, it's funny because on Twitter, there are a lot of people who didn't like the Marines in the back of his speech. Was that, I mean, the guy's commander in chief.
Oh, I think a lot of people who are definitely progressive, and maybe to the more radical side of progressive, are very anti-military.
Uh, I see.
I am critical of the use of the military, but like I used to say back in the day, who you going to call? Who you going to call? The nation needs a military.
Yeah.
How you
Yeah.
use that military and what its purposes are, that's the problem. Okay,
Well,
so
well, yeah.
the critics of the military, of course, are looking at military abuse, both domestic and foreign.
Mm.
But that's all an extension of policy that's run by civilians and influenced by domestic politics. A lot of it's hidden domestic politics. Some of it is a combination of domestic and foreign relations, international relations. But that was that kind of critique of the military, or implied critique, I guess, of the military and military presence, is the equivalent of defund the police.
Yeah. Well, in a way, I can see why. Yeah, if they take a strong anti-militaristic uh, stand,
Yeah,
but I think it was almost off point. It was almost like, yeah, the fascists on the right are more objectionable than Joe Biden's not a fascist. He's not a fascist leader.
right.
I mean, he's the commander in chief. So I didn't see it important to bring up the military image. I thought, and so for Twitter to kind of blow up because of that, I thought, hey, look, here's a guy who's for the first time directly confronting this idea that the threat to our country is in the lies of the Republican Party under the spell of Donald Trump, because that's what it is. It's a spell of Donald Trump. They can't break it, and we need to let people know that we're aware of it. It's like we're not going to be nice about it. We're just going to say outright, "Hey, what's going on here?" And what I liked about what Joe Biden said is he kind of brought us together. He said uh, it was really
He tried to
a
bring us together. Yes.
it was more of a unifying kind of speech. We're not, he's not the president of the red states and the blue states. He's the president of America. I thought it was a speech he needed. I don't know if America was ready to hear it. Clearly, a lot of progressives weren't ready to hear it.
Right. Yeah. Well, he's always been consistently, criticized from the progressive wing, and obviously further left than that, he's going to be criticized all the time.
Yeah.
Uh,
So
I consider myself personally pretty radical
yeah.
in my political ideological views, but I can also be rather practical.
Mm,
And SF State, back in the day during the legendary strike of 68, 69, we
mm,
were known as practical radicals. We looked at what the real conditions were in the community, and while we had our individual ideological conventions that we like to subscribe to, we looked at the reality of what was going on in our communities, and that became common ground for us. That was part of the strength of our movement. And today, there's a typical splintering on the left. I mean, as well as I do that the left is just genius at splintering and being fragmented.
mm.
And that's what the right has always taken advantage of. The right has always taken advantage of the ideological divisiveness that exists on the left.
Yeah. Let me play this one bit from Biden again. He's trying to bring it together. After going after the MAGA Republicans, he said this.
We're a big, complicated country, but democracy endures only if we, the people, respect the guardrails of the republic. Only if we, the people, accept the results of free and fair elections. Only if we, the people, see politics not as total war, but mediation of our differences. Democracy cannot survive when one side believes there are only two outcomes to an election. Either they win or they were cheated. And that's where the MAGA Republicans are today. They don't understand what every patriotic American knows. You can't love your country only when you win. It's fundamental. American democracy only works only if we choose to respect the rule of law and the institutions that were set up in this chamber behind me. See, only if we respect our legitimate political differences. I will not stand by and watch. I will not, the will of the American people, be overturned by wild conspiracy theories and baseless evidence-free claims of fraud. I will not stand by and watch elections in this country stolen by people who simply refuse to accept that they lost.
See, I think this is Biden got a lot of powers. He built, I mean, the 25-minute speech. I thought he kept making point after point, and
I thought he did it aggressively. I have really been critical of the Democratic Party for decades, because they failed to be aggressive in their criticisms. And look how long it took not only the Democrats but the media as well, the general media, to call Trump a liar.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course, yes. Calling Trump a liar. How about now? I mean, with all the stuff that all the new information about the things they're trying to get at Mar-a-Lago. I mean, there's no reason for any top secret documents to even be there, but now we have more evidence, and at some point, people are going to have to say, "My God, we've been gaslit by this guy." I mean, they have to at least be willing to. I mean, with Biden's speech,
they just reject them. They'll reject Napolitano. They'll reject Barr, his last statement. Napolitano came right out and said, not only is there more than enough evidence that's out in the public eye to charge him, they've got enough to convict. He actually said they've got enough to convict. This is Napolitano. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you know, the thing is, it's sort of like a speeding ticket, right? If you're doing 75, I mean, this is a different analogy from the library, the overdue library book.
I hope it's a better metaphor than the electric cord too. So
no, okay, well, but look, if you're doing 75 and they get you on the, you know, they've got the, you know, the tracking device, the radar. They know you're doing over the speed limit. You know, the speed limit's 55. You're doing 75. There's no argument. And that's really, there's no excuse. I mean, Donald Trump is like, he's like in traffic court trying to argue that he wasn't speeding, and they got him dead to rights. And that's a conviction. Unfortunately, it's under the Espionage Act, so it's a little, it's a little.
Oh, but that's such a mundane charge, according to his attorney.
Well, then let him be charged.
Well, she was his attorney as of maybe 36 hours ago.
Yeah.
There's so much dumb stuff at this point that she is either going to be a witness, which precludes her from representing Mr. Trump, or a co-defendant.
Well, I mean,
which
the
I
thing
really would like.
Well, yeah, when the lawyers need attorneys, that's when you're in trouble.
Yeah, somebody said, I think it was Professor Murray, said means MAGA means makes attorneys get attorneys.
Well, it's true. I mean, if it's so mundane, let Donald Trump spend 3 months in
mundane 20 years, for obstruction.
Yeah, let him spend 3 months in mundane prison.
Yeah.
You know? I just think.
Well, he actually admitted, live and in Twitter that yes, those documents were in my office and they were in those boxes, but I kept them neatly. Yeah. They spread them around to make me look like a slob.
Yeah, the real problem.
Stand it is, the stupidity is just so rank. It's just it's comical, but it's tragic too. The scary part is who had access to all that stuff, and what about the missing the empty file folders?
Right. Well, he's the president. the fact that this guy is the president and this is the way
He
he
was the
does,
president.
he was the president. He conducts his business this way. I mean, that's alarming. I mean, all that Biden was doing with his speech was pointing out
Yeah,
uh,
that's right. Fact
more
or
of
fact.
more of what we need to be alarmed by, and then in real time, Trump with this Mar-a-Lago document debacle is only showing, oh yeah, Joe Biden was right. America has been under this spell, and America needs to break this spell. And thank goodness Joe Biden finally has been. He has the political capital from a lot of his recent wins. From the Chips Act to the Infrastructure Act, to all the big legislative wins. He has the he has the
Bilateral
political.
support for bipartisan support for Ukraine.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
a biggie.
yeah, I mean, I just think that right now he's coming at it at the right time. You just hope he doesn't peak too soon before 2024. I mean, I think the midterms now are now at least tilting in a favorable direction for the Democrats, but it also looks like it could be a dead heat. Who knows? Who
Yeah,
knows?
yeah.
And so,
I think dead heat to maybe close Democratic win. I think they're going to take the Senate,
yeah,
and we might get two to spare. Depends on they're swing states, obviously.
yeah. Well, it's where we've got 60 days and for things to right itself, and it's still going to be very it's still going to be very a very divided country.
Yeah.
But if you're ahead 52-50, much better than 50-50 with the vice president casting the deciding vote. It's still not a landslide. It's still we're still very close uh, together in terms of where the Americans are, except some, I think, after the last couple months, have to be willing to say, God, it's time to cut Donald Trump loose. I mean, I think that's where we are. That's the
Oh,
significant.
there's a lot of people that are there. I mean, obviously McConnell's been there forever.
Yeah.
He just is being very careful about protecting his own interest, his own seat. But he's also trying to give cover to the people who are anti-Trump, but nonetheless, want to be safe if they're facing re-election.
Yeah. But then where is, yeah, I feel like we are at this point, this moment. And as far as Asian Americans go, the Vietnamese and the Filipinos are the most
The
Trumpy.
Trumpiest, yeah.
Are they ready to say, yeah, we gotta think of the party and think about if we really want to win, and Trump isn't going to get us there.
I think
That's
some are,
yeah,
but I think I can't speak for the Vietnamese as much as I can the Filipinos.
yeah.
But they really are mega deep.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Filipinos are mega deep, and so I don't expect much movement from them at all.
yeah.
Um,
So if that's the case, Asian Americans are probably going to be. It's still. I think it's probably still like 60-40, more Democrat than Republican.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think the news is still like based on voter surveys. The outreach has been very minimal to Asian Americans in general. That's the surprising thing.
I've been getting a lot of general stuff,
Yeah.
by email and on the phone. I've been getting a lot of general stuff, outreach from the Democrats. I also maintain a connection with an ultra conservative group because I want to see what they're saying.
Oh
So
yeah.
they continuously are looking for money and stuff like that, but the positions they're taking are just as ridiculous as the most ridiculous statements coming out of, let's say, a Ron Johnson or somebody like that.
Yeah.
Somebody with a QAnon perspective.
See,
So
yeah, I don't know. I mean, the polls are like we're going to get different polls every week until we get to the midterms. I was a little alarmed when I saw that the number of people backing, um, the football player in Georgia,
Herschel.
Herschel Walker,
Yep, yep. Yeah,
and
I know.
I
He
mean, because the whole thing about Trump, about Biden's speech, is that we are in this truth optional world. He's giving us the truth. Here is the truth, and we have the truth. And there's some people who still don't buy it. I mean, at some point,
well,
uh,
even Barr said if Trump would run again, I'd still vote for him.
yeah,
He's calling everything that he did after Barr resigned, or up to the point where Barr resigned, briefly before Barr resigned, as false. Okay, but then when he was asked, would you vote for him if he was the nominee, and he said yes.
see,
So
this is
what we're talking about in Herschel Walker's case is you got people. It's Georgia. They don't
yeah,
want to lose again. They don't want to do what happened. They're embarrassed by the fact that they lost two Senate seats, right?
yeah,
Um, and they could. I don't know how Stacey's doing right now. But anyway,
Stacey Abrams.
yeah, yeah. I don't know how she's doing. I mean, I've contributed enough money to her that I can call her on a first name basis. You know what I mean? But
I don't contribute to anybody. That way I can maintain my
well,
purity.
you can maintain. Yeah. No,
But
I
I do talk about races and campaigns, and uh, I I think it's obvious where my leanings are. But I try to be equanimous, and I try to listen to the other side.
no, I
But now,
think you have to do that. I mean, I don't know. Even if I build I'm a member of the AJA and all that stuff. But if I presented myself as a full time journalist, as you do, I might also have to back off when talking about who I donate to. I will still donate. I just won't talk about it.
well, I wouldn't. I think that's where I draw the line. I talk about things as an opinion journalist, as a an opinion journalist or reported opinion. But what I don't do is I don't give money to anyone.
Right.
I and I just there's only one person I've ever given money to, and it was a friend who was running, and that's the only time I've ever given money. He doesn't run in anymore. He's not in politics anymore. But it was the one time that I broke my pledge to support any candidate. But now I do talk about specific candidates. Like there's a race in California, California 45, which is Michelle Steele against Jay Chen.
Hmm.
Michelle Steele is a Republican, Jay Chen the Democrat. Jay Chen is a veteran and a straight shooter, deserving of people's votes. Michelle Steele is a Korean American woman who is an election denier. She's an RNC. Um,
So does she qualify to be MAGA?
I think she would. She doesn't reject him. She doesn't reject Trump. I think she I think this is where a lot of Republicans are trying to get to the how do I get to be a moderate Republican without being called a rhino by the MAGA folks.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think that Michelle Steele is terribly compromised. Her husband is a Republican um, Party stalwart, California Republican Party. I mean, albeit California Republican Party isn't that strong, but in these pockets in Southern California, there are red parts of the blue state. They that that's where they prevail. And I just hope that in California 45, Jay Chen, an Asian American Democrat, gets gets the benefit of a lot of people's doubts about where Michelle Steele is right now, because I think she's in the pocket of Trump. She's in the Kevin McCarthy. That's the thing. Kevin McCarthy is not exactly the most forthright, the most trustworthy. You saw how he waffled back and forth after January 6th. And what was his metaphor that you were
The electric cord of liberty.
what is the electric there's liberty? I thought Lady Liberty is holding up a torch. Is he saying is it an electrical appliance she was holding? Well, What
if
what
you
is the deal? The
if
electric
you
cord of
if you
liberty?
Google it, what comes up is what? What?
Wait. Say that again. The electric cord of
Cord
liberty.
of Liberty. Let me see if
Is he talking about a vibrating device of some sort? Is he talking about an
no.
Hitachi vibrating electric wall?
Let me see if I get the whole quote,
You can
man.
get the battery operated too. That works pretty well. I like the battery. So and this is Kevin McCarthy, who runs roughshod over all Republicans as the, I guess, for lack of a better term, he is the butt boy of Trump. He likes being that because McConnell doesn't want to be that, and Lindsey Graham, I guess, is I know Lindsey Graham is Lindsey Graham, but in the House, it is
Lindsay's losing it, man.
yeah, but in the House it is Kevin McCarthy, and he's in Californian. He's down the road from me, and I think Michelle Steele is a Kevin McCarthy. She's a Kevin McCarthy Republican. That's why
Okay.
she can't be trusted because
Uh,
I don't know what she's done with her electric cord of liberty, though. I just don't know. All right, so Dan,
she uses stuff that's got batteries. Anyway,
so
okay, here's the quote. Here's the quote.
yeah,
The American experiment, this is Kevin McCarthy now. The American experiment and the good people who believe in it have not said their last word. The electric cord of liberty still sparks in our hearts. The spirit of the pilgrims, the patriots, and the pioneers still inspire our souls. Our best days are ahead of us, not behind us. Our
because
nation can flourish again under a new historic Republican majority.
and he needs a new speechwriter. He needs,
Oh man, just to use that metaphor was that's absolute stupidity. You should have seen his delivery too. It
yeah,
was he was like a freshman kid in a speech class
yeah.
making his first speech.
The
He was
electric
just
cord of that makes me think. Do you remember the electric company?
sure,
That,
sure.
that, that's sort of like the Republican speech.
Yeah, but when I was watching it with my kids. You know, when you were watching it, you were a kid.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Let's get back. The electric cord of liberty. I look, this is why Kevin McCarthy should be out, but he's in, and unfortunately, we have to keep our distance.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
all right. So look, Dan, let's wrap up on Biden here. Is this going
Okay.
to help him or hurt
Strong
him?
speech, very strong speech, very confrontational. He did what he's got to do. He's got to provoke the bear.
Mhm.
63%, and in another poll, something like 66%. Split the difference. You know, call it 64 and a half. Of Republicans still believe that Biden is not legit.
Wow, that
Okay,
Biden is not legit. See now
that
that
Biden is not
that's the
legit.
thing. That's the
So
thing that we have to
yeah,
that's a threat to
so
democracy.
yeah. So my
Have
question
lost.
is, does that qualify that 60 whatever 64.5% of the Republican Party as MAGAs?
They're MAGA enough for me.
Yeah,
They're
I
they're
think
MAGA
so too.
enough
I
to
think
like.
that's the line. If that's the line, I think if you are a person who thinks that Biden was not legitimately elected, you're MAGA.
Yeah, there.
Okay?
I mean, you don't need the red hat. You don't need the red hat to
Red
be
cap.
MAGA. Yeah.
No,
I
my
all right. So I think Biden is going to. I think now it depends on how he backs it up. If
yep.
he backs down and soft, if he pulls his punches from here on, I think he's in full revitalized mode, and it's campaign time really.
Yes, it is.
But I think
That was the signal, and the Democrats and the independents that can afford to take confrontational positions like that or take confrontational tone, they got to do it. They
yeah.
have to go with it from now on, all the way up until November.
Now this is another Joe Biden speechwriter uh, buzz phrase or buzzword that they're hung up on and they're going to repeat. Like he likes the phrase, "I'm building the country from the bottom up and from the middle out." That he uses that a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah, but he also uses the word inflection point.
Right.
the
Yeah.
from physics. It's like
Yeah.
they got
Right.
jump up to the next level. This is he called this moment an inflection point, and it is he used it in the campaign. This is now at the midpoint of his tenure. This is an inflection point. He's got to be tough. He's got to use the capital that he has to build more capital. Now he has capital to build more capital, and he's got to get Americans to understand that they have been gaslit by the former president, and they should be mad at Trump.
Yep.
They should be mad at Trump more than Biden. That's why there's no defense. There's no going after Biden on this. People, especially now with the Mar-a-Lago, as more evidence, no matter what, no matter how redacted it is, people just have to come to terms with the fact that they've been gaslit by Trump all this time. That,
If we talk about that, are we going to talk about that the Mar-a-Lago? Well, the documents very
yeah,
brief.
yeah. We'll get to that. Yeah, but
Okay, so you covered Ishmael and the play. We covered Soul of America. You want to talk about Jackson?
yeah, I do want to talk about all of them, but let's put the Biden speech to rest here with
Well,
my
that's the Soul of America, right? Yeah.
yeah, Sullivan with my talk show implement. So now we're just going to talk about. I want to talk about. You want to talk about Mar-a-Lago? You have one more thing to say about Mar-a-Lago because I think the documents are there. I think the documents show every time that we get a judge. The Trump tries to get someone to say stop this. No one stops it, but we get more information about what's there, and what's there should alarm us. So let's put a cap on this until
Well,
we
yeah.
have
But see, even his two new male lawyers that represented him in court
yeah
against the DOJ reps. Um, I mean, what the hell kind of argument is it that this is like an overdue library book?
yeah
That is there is no legal basis for that argument.
yeah,
You there's absolutely no legal basis for the arguments that they were making. It was had nothing to do with
yeah.
facts or law, and they had the nerve to get up and argue that. Oh, come on, man!
Well,
That
they were just
was
trying
so
to make it.
embarrassing.
They're trying to make it understandable to the people. And
Oh,
I like my traffic ticket analogy better
oh no!
because if you're speeding and you want to go in and go up against the judge and say I wasn't speeding, judge, and then the guy has the radar gun readout, and you're speeding, guilty.
I have beat a speeding ticket with a radar gun because I asked the guy when was the last time he calibrated it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that
and they have to calibrate it, within like an hour or so of having used it. I don't know what it is now, but yeah,
they're
I got it.
smarter now. There's that the calibration thing used to be an issue you can bring up,
Right, right.
and did you
Well, they got
see?
better guns. They got better guns too. So that
Yeah, but I think that but the point is it's not a matter about even how significant the documents were. I mean, you're classified. You're classified. You shouldn't have them. That's all it is.
Yep. So
There's
that's
no
it.
other point.
He's out of office. He's no longer president, and he's got all this stuff. I mean,
There's no pack rat defense.
and he admits it. He admits it. They spread that stuff all over the floor to make me look like a slab, and I had it all.
All right. That's it. That's it on
Okay,
Mar-a-Lago.
okay, that's done. Okay, that's
That's
done.
done. All right. So
Yeah, but
the
it's so
next.
much
All right.
fun to see such stupid people, man. It's so embarrassing, man. Where
All right.
did they get their law degrees and where did they pass the bar? My God. You
Okay.
know?
All right. So
Whew.
our next topic, Jackson, Mississippi,
Okay, that's not funny.
town of 180,000, no water. I mean, I
Two
I think
decades. 2 decades of problems with their water.
yeah. See, here's the thing. It's always been an issue. It was an issue this week. We talked. I don't think I ever really got into it in this show. And I think sometimes the news has been there, but the news is, I don't know what else you can cover except you put a reporter out there in front of trucks, uh, passing out bottled water to people. But I think this is kind of a harbinger for a lot of different communities, not just Jackson. And this is the need for the infrastructure bill, or the act rather, the monies to build up the infrastructure in the country. I mean, why is Jackson this way? And the thing that comes to mind is this, if this were a white community, would it happen, and would it stay a problem for very long, so that you had to issue I mean, they've had a boiling water boil your water notice since July,
Right. Yeah, it's been
right?
2 months
And
now.
they put out a notice, take a shower but don't open your mouth. I mean, does it matter if the water is permeating your skin? I mean, if this were a white community, a predominantly white community, Dan, do you think this would still be allowed to happen days and months?
Probably not. Probably not. But I'm one. Here's the Jeopardy question. What is Flint?
Oh yeah, Flint.
Okay. And then before that, what is the Love Canal?
Yeah.
Okay, so the U.S. has been terrible at these kinds of issues, regardless of race. That's one. It has a lot to do not only with race but with class. That's two. And the other thing is, it's the capital city of the state. There's no the legislature is right there.
Yeah.
Okay, right there. Okay, so you know that they're living in the burbs, right? All those legislators are living in the burbs, and they got clean water.
Maybe it doesn't. It only affects Jackson and not the environs, right?
Right.
We're just talking about this the city
Hmm.
proper, which
Yep.
in the case in which case what you're saying is right. That if you, because I kept thinking, why doesn't someone, like, if you have the means, of course you go on vacation or you go somewhere else. You get a room somewhere till this. But who has the
You
means?
mean you pull a cruise? You're talking about
Or
pulling a cruise.
or or you drive
That's a
to the
reference to
next town.
Senator Cruz.
Yeah, or you drive to the next town over, until this all boils over. But
Uh-oh. Was
uh,
that a pun?
no
Oh
pun
no.
intended. No pun, but it's not. I mean, it's not just gonna go away, and which is why the delay? Why are
It,
these people?
yeah,
Well,
there it is.
it's
But see,
frustrating.
that's why I draw the parallel with Flint.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
it's
yeah.
that way because people make political decisions for those results. You know, the problem they had for me, the most critical, embarrassing moment of the Obama administration was when he took a sip out of that glass,
Mm,
took a sip of water, a little tiny sip of water, and said everything's good now in Flint.
yeah.
That was horrible. That was horrible. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't written the man yet. I'm waiting for like his mail to sort of subside a little bit, and I'm going to write him a note saying, "Man, that was really bad."
Well, what should, I mean? Joe Biden hasn't done that, fortunately. But what can be done at this point? Democratic administration. If
Well,
I
there's
would be,
there's massive federal assistance available for that project, but the issue is, will it get there? And have you seen the other corresponding embarrassment about the use of money that was supposed to have gone to the poorest of the poor of Mississippi,
where'd it go?
and it was diverted
Who?
by somebody high up in the gubernatorial administration,
Yeah.
and they started buying. They paid for uh, a new volleyball or a field or something like that
Oh boy.
at the at the Southern University, um, where the great football player, you know, his daughter
Deion,
goes to school there.
Deion Sanders? Oh no.
No, white boy.
Oh, I didn't catch that. I look. It's just sad. I feel sad for the people of Jackson because this is America, and it must be a field day for Chinese propagandists who are writing things about America, because this is. I mean, if you read the Chinese newspapers and about, this is what they point out to things like this. This is the great capitalist America. This is what's happening, and it's just I think this is just embarrassing for the country.
Absolutely.
You know,
It's more than embarrassing. It's an indicator of our willingness to tolerate obvious injustice,
yeah.
particularly when there's racial and class overtones.
I just wish that we did something, or were able to do something. I'm glad that there's some people who are still hanging in there. They're brushing their teeth with the water bottles. I don't know if they're bathing in the brown water, but it's one of those things that is the news stories that you watch and you say, well, they're but for fortune, right?
Right?
Uh, you're grateful that you have running water. You're grateful that you have electricity. We're facing a heat wave this weekend, and it's going to be like 107 where I am, 105. It's going to be hot, and who knows? Let's hope we have our electricity, but because there could be
It's going
browning.
to be real bad, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, all right. So look, it's a time that we look at the news and we're reflective and we're grateful about what we have. We don't take any of this stuff for granted, and we hope that it becomes super obvious that the people who need to do something, because the longer it goes, it just seems more classist and racist than it should be. So yeah.
Absolutely. Um,
So
yeah,
I don't know what more to say except
no, there isn't anything.
yeah,
It's a part of a pattern, and the pattern is clear. And then the language that comes from the governor is somewhat conciliatory, and the mayor, Lumumba, is being conciliatory, even though because he says, and the governor says that they're bringing in resources, and they fixed one pump already, and
yeah.
so they're supposedly going to fix the second pump by next week, this coming week. So
See,
we'll see what happens.
sorry's not fast enough.
That's right.
You want clean water, and then it is kind of like a water everywhere kind of thing. You see flooding, you see rains, and then and there's no water. Anyway, look, I want to talk about this other story. Bandy Lee. We were talking about Trump, and she was one of the early folks who started writing about Trump. A U.S. district judge this week ruled against Yale psychiatrist Bandy Lee, who lost her position after calling President Trump delusional and mentally ill. Um,
Hmm.
According to reports, Hartford Current, a judge dismissed Lee's lawsuit, which alleged Yale violated her First Amendment rights solely because she warned the public about what she called the contagion of Trump's mental instability. Now, Bandy Lee went on to write a book. I guess she profited from that, but she lost her job. She claimed it was a matter of free speech, but she did not get her job back. What do you think about Bandy Lee? Here's Bandy Lee, Asian American. I think it's rare when you see an Asian American speak out to applaud her for doing what she did. She may have crossed the line somewhat when, as Yale pointed out, she did not, you know, she did not, she diagnosed Trump without seeing him. She claims she was not acting as a psychiatrist, although she was using her, you know, her expertise to, in essence, diagnose Trump. It's difficult, but people were looking, they were grasping for straws, trying to figure out how do we deal with Trump. She felt it was important to stand up and say, yeah, you know, this is what I am, from my perspective as a clinician. What
Yeah.
I
Once
applaud
you
you.
do that, that would be the equivalent of me giving legal advice.
Yeah,
The equivalent of legal advice. It's one thing for me to state my opinion on matters that might involve the law, And it's another thing for me to tell people, I'll give even this. I'll give you a range of alternatives on how you might deal with the matter.
Yeah.
That would be, beyond my license. I don't have a license, so if I don't have a license to practice, I can't do that. And it might look like a thin line to a lot of people, but it's not.
It's
You
fairly
you
thick.
could
It's
be
a fairly
punished
thick line.
severely. Yeah, you could be punished severely even if it's not your intention to pose as a licensed attorney.
Well,
Uh,
wait a minute. Now, uh, Dan, Bandy Lee claimed First Amendment. It was her First Amendment right. She had to
sure.
do. Let's see. What did she say? She said Trump was engaging in the predatory manipulation of his vulnerable followers. She said, and she wrote the book, The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. The APA and Psychiatric Association attacked her for violating guidelines, but she felt she had to do it. It was her duty to speak out. It was like her First Amendment right. Did she have a First Amendment right here?
Of course, she has a First Amendment right, but it clashes with her professional responsibility. She was attacked on the basis of violating her professional responsibility. Okay,
Yeah.
and so the two are clearly in conflict. This is likely to occur all the time. It's likely to
Does
occur
she
all the time.
does she get to appeal?
Um, you can appeal just like suing anybody. You can sue anybody for any reason, okay? And she can appeal as long as she appeals on the basis of a fault in the law or a fault in the application of the law by the trial judge.
So likely this is where it ends.
Likely, quite likely.
I mean, she did. I mean, the job she had at Yale was a non-paying job apparently. So it was kind of like a maybe it was more ceremonial, symbolic. I'm not sure, but uh, I don't think she's hurt financially. So the damage is
Well, the country is light on shrinks right now, and everybody's talking about upping the commitment to dealing with mental illness
yeah,
and all that. People are looking at reinvesting in counseling in schools and the
yeah,
universities. So, yeah, she's probably going to be fine. She may even benefit from the publicity and all that stuff.
yeah. Well, I think anytime you see an Asian American speaking out and doing something like this, um, I think it's to be commended, even though she may have gone too far out on a limb. I wish her well. Bandy Lee is her name. By the way, I got this story from, I don't know if you're familiar with Azam News.
Oh yeah,
Azam
I
News.
do. I do have check Ajamin, and
Yeah,
it's good. It's quite
yeah.
good.
Randall Yip is a buddy of mine who founded this, and uh, he put out a note on Facebook saying they are now officially a 501c3. And so now, after each story, he says Azam News is incorporated in the state of California as Asian American Media, a nonprofit with 501c3 status, which means you can donate
Right
to
on.
help them and it's tax deductible. But as a 501c3 nonprofit, that means he's got volunteers. He's been able with the donations to pay some people. I applaud my friend Randall. I've known Randall since the 80s. We worked together at KRON when it was the NBC affiliate. We sat across from one another, and we still. I mean, if I see Randall, we're still friendly. But I'm really I'm not amazed. I'm actually surprised it took as long as it did to build up and get I mean, it's tough to build these things. He's working full time. I think he might be retiring soon, so then he'll be able to spend it on this. But I think it's incredible that he was able to build up Azam News, and I just want to give him a shout out because there's a number of things that you can pick up from here that you won't get anywhere else, like this story about Cambodian Americans protest unjust imprisonment of American. Here's another story: 30 for 30 to release doc on tennis great Michael Chang. Everyone's talking about tennis now because Serena Williams. I love Serena Williams. I love Venus slightly more, but Serena is the dominant champion. And I kept thinking, who are the Asian Americans? Of course, Michael Chang. Um, there are a lot of Asian American tennis stars. Uh, their time is, they had their moments.
Yeah,
And
Peanut had her moments. She was a local.
Peanut Louie,
Yep.
Peanut Louie, friend of Billie Jean,
Yep.
right? Um, Billie Jean was a San Francisco. She really was more San Francisco than anywhere else, but she's kind of branched out.
Right.
But I'm just, it always happens. The U.S. Open comes on. There's some great champion who is making news, and it captures my attention. And then I start playing tennis for a month, and then it gets cold, and I stop playing tennis. That's the way it is with me. But anyway, Azam
At
News.
least you still can. At least you still can. If you got the knees for it, do it.
Yeah, I still can. So Azam News, check it out.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's really good.
it,
I go there.
it is good. All right, so we go on to the next topic. And the next topic is, let's see, Bandy, Lee, Jackson. Oh, we've covered everything pretty much. We've covered everything pretty much.
Okay.
Daniel Phil
Okay.
Gonzalez.
Looks
I
good.
mean, since I last talked to you, I don't think we ever really talked about the Fonz conference.
No, we didn't.
You did not go.
No, I
Uh,
didn't go.
I was there only virtually. I regret it somewhat that I didn't go because it was right at the point when I was still very COVID conscious. Oh, and we were going to talk about this. This is an important thing.
Oh, in New York.
Yeah, the New York
Yeah,
Times,
Times. Yeah, yeah.
and uh, I I think it's important because it shows that people are there. We're at we're at one of those inflection points, as
To quote the man.
to quote the man, to quote Joe Biden. But here's that poll. New York Times did a phone poll, more than 2,000 people interviewed, and they compare it. They did it 6 months ago, and they did it today, and look at where we are. This is share of adults who say COVID presents a great personal risk. Back in when was it? Back in March, the very liberal were up around 47%. Say COVID presents a great personal risk, and they weren't going anywhere. And then look at how it's like been in decline, and to where we are now, it's about like 34%. And this is the very liberal, but look at where the very liberal are compared to the very conservative, who are down here by 10%. Like they don't care. Slightly conservative, they don't care. Slightly liberal, they're kind of they're actually a little better than the very conservative, but the liberal, they actually went up since March. Only 24%, but not nearly as high as the so-called very liberal. So what do you make of that? I mean, if you look at our political stances, it determines how much risk you're able to take on, I
People
guess.
people are tired. People are tired of essentially feeling disenfranchised. They don't have that freedom of movement, and
Wait,
they would rather have that back.
well,
And
wait a minute. People feel disenfranchised by being
sure,
safe.
no,
If you're
they
safe,
feel disenfranchised by the COVID restrictions, the COVID based restrictions.
uh-huh.
And so now they want to get back out into real life again, and that's being demonstrated by the willingness to buy tickets for out of country travel as
Yeah,
well as domestic travel.
yeah.
So and the the prices are pretty ridiculous. The costs
They're,
are
they're
very
high,
high.
and also the flying
Oh
conditions are.
yeah,
But to your point, we my household is from the very liberal. We have gone down. I guess we're about there because my wife started flying again, and when she came back, we did not quarantine.
Okay.
So I mean that shows that. I mean,
Yeah. At
I,
least your own personal practice. Yeah.
well, I just feel like I'm like the Filipino boxer who's got his guard down. I mean, from the guard up to guard down,
Right. Right.
and and part of me doesn't like it,
That's a
but
good analogy. You really ought to talk to Kevin McCarthy.
yeah, yeah, but part of me thinks that this is the way of the world. I look on television, everyone's, Joe Biden's out there speaking. He gets COVID, he's still out there speaking. His wife gets COVID, they're still out there speaking. Uh, Kamala Harris gets COVID, her husband gets COVID, they're still out there speaking. It's almost like I feel like, God, people are out there
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's life. And maybe I ought to just not be so risk averse and just go out there. And now I'll wear a mask. I'll still wear a mask. It doesn't mean, I mean, I, I'll take the risk of going out there, but I will wear a mask. And look at this number here. They did a poll showing share of adults who report always wearing a mask in public. Only a third, 28% of adults.
Yeah. I only wear a mask indoors in public.
Yeah,
But there are still some buildings, for example, 450 Sutter, the medical building where my
yeah,
dentist office is in downtown San Francisco. It's required.
yeah.
If you enter the building without a mask, they give you a mask at the front desk.
Hey, I'm wearing a mask. I'm still indoor, outdoor. I'm wearing a mask. It's bad enough that I'm out and
Right, right.
about. It's bad enough that I will be willing to take an airplane if someone will pay my fare so I can do something in public. I'm almost willing to do live shows in a theater as long as I get to bring my air purifier with me, which I have a handy dandy air purifier. Let me get it up here. I can't. Oh, here it is. Can I?
Your sound is off. It's your sound is off. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I hope so. Yeah, yeah, I can't hear you. It happened after you got up to try and find your air purifier. Unless
Now
there
you
you
get God. Can you believe that? I was trying to showcase my air purifier, but I don't have it on an extension cord.
go.
Yeah,
Okay.
I unplugged this. Okay, so anyway, I will only. Oh, it's too white. I can't look that white. You okay?
I make up your own punchline.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, so no, really,
You're okay with looking a little white, right?
okay. I mean, it's artificial. It's artificial.
My
Yes.
mother always preferred you over me. You know,
Uh,
you were lighter than me.
it was only the light. It was only the light.
It was the lightness.
So no, no, seriously, I think
She's pleasantly brown.
PB. I bring my mask. I wear my mask. I love my mask. Look, and also, if you wear a mask, people can't lip read when you say "f you."
Yeah. Eat my shorts.
F you. I mean, you can swear to your heart's content. Go fuck yourself. God, F you.
So
No,
yeah, we're very restrictive.
yeah.
I personally am very. I was at a very intimate dinner with about 9 people last week, and
Wow,
Linda had me
practically an orgy.
because
practical
we were
unfortunate.
eating and we were enjoying each other's company for for about 4 hours, and so
Wow.
around a large dinner table, but nonetheless,
Who got
and
COVID? How many people got COVID?
nobody,
Oh, good. That's
you
good.
know, but I'm sure everybody had their shots and stuff. More than half the table,
Mhm,
6 of us, were at least in our late 60s, if not late 70s.
mhm.
There were at least 2 or 3 people that were in their mid to late 70s. And
Yeah.
then there were several of us that were like 72, 73.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I'm telling you, I'm sort of dropping my guard a little bit, but I'm leaving my mask on. So that's where I
that,
stand.
that's good practice. I mean, that's just sound practice. Um, we always have extra masks in the car. Even when we take deliveries, if we're going to answer the door to take a delivery to hand, we got masks sitting right by the front door. So, we're always
Well,
ready to cover up.
what do you
We got
make of
hand
this though?
sanitizer with
This
us all the time.
Oh, I don't buy the hand sanitizer stuff.
Uh,
I believe in dirty hands.
I
I do,
got a bunch of punchlines, and I gotta leave them alone.
wash. I mean, masking, yes, but washing hands. Yeah, I get around to that. Yeah, have my cat lick my fingers. Yeah. Hey, so what about this political ideology bit? It seems that once again, very liberal, 44 says they're going to wear a mask. 33 liberal say they're going to wear a mask. And then look at what happens. You get slightly moderate, you're a third, right? And then
That's
conservative.
interesting. That's interesting that the moderates that showed up in the other graph too.
Yeah. I mean, see, so you see, this is masks, right? And
Hmm.
and look at the conservatives are nowhere. Screw the mask. And then the liberals, they're wearing masks. And then you go to the other graph, which this is what you're referring to. Uh,
Well,
share of adults who say COVID.
in the instance of the conservatives, not enough of them died right in front of them. I mean, they have to have somebody die, but there are families who deny that their relatives, even their close relatives, their immediate first degree inside the family relatives died of COVID. Even those families deny that they died of
Yeah.
COVID. So if they're going to act like that, then I'm not at all surprised that they don't want. There's zero. They might as well be zero on the
Yeah.
mask.
Well, I just
Yeah.
think that I know since I'm in the red part of the blue state, I see it. I go to the grocery store, I'm wearing a mask. I'm the only one. Or if yeah,
Really?
I'm the only one in going to the grocery store. If I go anywhere indoors, maybe.
Don't you think you're tempting fate? Maybe somebody will come. Right, a MAGA will come up and rip the mask off your
Well,
face. Of course, then again, you can sue them for assault
see,
and
that's the
battery.
thing. I think that this is what Joe Biden was getting at with his speech. We have these cultists who are out there, and they may feel like they are empowered to do something like you just suggested. You know, come
Yep.
up and then pull your mask, just like if you wore suspenders to school as a. Did you wear suspenders to school as a second grader or first grader, and then people just like they pluck your suspenders? Oh, I'm being bullied. Someone doesn't like my
I,
suspenders.
I remember wearing. Yeah. I can't. It's really vague memory, but I remember I did for a period of time wear
Yeah,
suspenders.
suspenders were
Uh,
cool. Suspenders were cool for a while if you were like in first grade or second.
Yeah, there it is exactly. It was first or second grade, but by third grade, man, I was wearing a belt. I mean,
If
there's no way I
if
was.
you weren't boys husky, and if you did,
I was a skinny little kid. I'm completely the reverse of what I am now.
if you didn't need a belt, you're boys husky.
Yeah, yeah, but a belt kept the top of the pant head from
Ah,
rolling. So
yeah. Hey, so
uh,
we haven't. All right, so we were going to talk about. Okay, so because because of COVID, I
fonts,
did not go to Fonz. I
right?
did Fonz by remote.
So how did
I
that go?
I
You did a remote panel.
I regret that I did it remotely. I wish I'd gone there because I think I would have. I think it would have been safe. Now, in retrospect, I think it would have been safe. And the remote experience, if you don't do the remote experience well or correctly, it's not good.
It's a bust. It's a
I mean,
bust.
there are
Yeah.
ways to do it, and I wish they had come to me and said, "Is there a way to do this well?" And I said, "Well, yeah. I mean, you could do it as a. There are ways to do it with Zoom, um, or webinar, or in meeting. You do it in meeting so everyone can come together and interact.
Yep.
But there are some software available that can replicate a live meeting, but everyone has to be live. I mean, this is what I don't get about teachers. Like you did. Some people said, "Well, we're doing hybrid." I don't believe in hybrid. I don't understand hybrid. And in fact, that's what I came that was my takeaway from going to the Fonz conference. How did teachers do it? How did teachers do their classes without going absolutely bonkers? In terms of, am I communicating something to these kids? Are they getting it? You know what I mean?
I okay. I did it all
Yeah.
online, not hybrid, but all online. During the winter session and summer
Yeah.
sessions. And the reason I did it that way was because it gave students who were out of state and out of country the ability to do the stuff on their own
Right.
time. Okay. Okay. So, and that it made like a 30% difference in my enrollment. Okay. So then when COVID hit, I knew how to do
Yeah.
online, but I went hybrid and I went asynchronous. In other words, they could do it on their own time, but people could still meet at the assigned class time,
Yeah.
right? And that worked really well. But as you stated, or the question that you raise is it effective? And my answer is no, it's not. It's not as good as live for certain. It is not as good as live. It's close because you can leave everybody on and you can just say mute unless you're going to speak. But they're hearing everything and they can pitch in. They also have chat,
Yeah.
which you can record, and they also have some of them wanted to do even another channel. They wanted to use Discord,
Yeah.
right? And among
Yeah.
themselves. I didn't allow that because I didn't want people having their own friggin' secret meetings right on the
Right.
side while the class was going
Yeah.
on. But they could have done that, you
Yeah,
know.
well, I think that there is a way to have everyone feel like they are engaged, and
Yes,
because
you
look,
can.
after you do a thing online, whether you're online or you're virtual or you're face to face, uh, when you're done, you feel it. I mean, you have exerted some energy, some mental energy. It's
Right,
not like I did nothing. It was a,
right,
a, a negative experience in that there was no energy exerted. I mean, you're exerting a lot of energy. You're putting out information. You're engaging and communicating. The key, the
right,
key, the
right.
key, I think, is um, people have to. I mean, the Fonz conference, the way they did it, they just didn't have the technology so that you felt like you were there. I mean, you have to
Right.
feel like if I've got 50 people on a Zoom screen, we're all here, we see each other. No one's putting up, some, you know, blank page. You got to see yourself, you got to show yourself. And
That's a good
yeah,
point.
and
Yeah. Even when you do it, if you do Zoom, you do it well. I'm using two monitors
yeah.
right now, and one of
Oh,
them is a lot bigger
oh,
than the other,
one for
and
you and one for your ego. Is that it?
one for me and one for the
Oh,
students, so that I can see all of them on one screen.
yeah.
Uh, because what the thing will do is, if there's too many people for one screen, it'll split it between the two monitors, and then I can shrink my own
See
image.
that and when you do things like that, it really is a proper virtual experience, right? I mean, you are
Yeah,
there and you reach out and you're not touching any, like you're going to shake a hand or something. You can't do that.
Physically,
But
yeah.
but you're in the moment, and it's a moment that's
Right.
shared. What I didn't like about the Fonz thing is that if there are people live, you know, they could see me, but the people online were all separate. There was no, it just wasn't done
Right.
very well. And with the little tweaks, it could have been done well because I have been to 3-day conferences, 3-day conferences online with using Zoom,
Right.
where there have been as many as 3 to 500 people.
Sure.
3 to 5, and we're
Sure.
all there in separate sessions or breakout sessions, you know, or and then you can have breakout rooms from your sessions. I
Right.
mean, there was ways to do it, and I I don't want to give up the Zoom experience, or we do a version of Zoom here on this show, but I don't want to give up the virtual experience when it is safer and it is more cost
Right.
effective, right?
Right.
I mean,
No, I prefer in person classes. There are a lot of political and somewhat economic
oh yeah,
reasons
yeah,
for my willingness to do stuff even before
yeah,
COVID. Like I said, going hybrid, whether you went synchronous or asynchronous, could mean as much as a 15%, a 20% increase in
oh
enrollment.
yeah,
So because people wouldn't have to come in, and we do have, as you know, because you used to teach at state, and you taught at other institutions as well. It's commuting,
yeah,
and it's a bear, man. Commuting into the city and stuff is really a drag. It kills a lot of
oh yeah,
time,
it
and
killed
so
killed,
there was a real
killed my
advantage.
time too. I mean, when I taught a 7 o'clock class at San Francisco State. I had to leave like around 4 o'clock, to get there in time. And then at 10 o'clock, it's out, it's over. It takes in 2 hours to get home. It's like the whole day. And,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it was
yeah.
not, to me, uh, they're probably, it's more efficient to go online. Here's the other thing about online learning, especially if you record the classes, that I find that video courses are very efficient because if you don't get a point, if you miss
You can go back and check it out.
exactly, and I found that it was it was a great way to learn,
Hmm.
and a great, and possibly, I wasn't, like, if I was gearing up to just say a lecture that would be videotaped and then releasing it, I presume it'd be a great way to teach as well. I don't know, because I was just live, and I just know from my experience as someone who learns from video courses how the advantage there. I've never done. Um, oh, actually, I have done some video courses, and there I've recorded the audio,
Right,
because
right.
that sometimes is, you're dealing with 2 hours of video. It's almost like unwieldy. Yeah, but 2 hours of audio, you know.
Well, over about the last, it's less than 10 years, but I'd say it's 7 or 8 years. Uh, Virtually all of the classrooms at SF State had
Oh
cameras in
yeah,
them,
yeah,
so you could record and do in effect an in person class, but you could record it so that students could have the advantage that you were just talking about. Because Zoom allows you not only to record, it allows you instant
right,
transcription.
right now, yeah. Back when I
Yeah.
was teaching there, I don't think they had a camera in the class. I
Right.
don't think,
Okay.
not in the class I was in, but no, I think it's ideal, video courses, and it's an efficiency thing, it's a monetary thing on all parts, the
That,
school, the students, the teachers. Anyway, uh, Zoom
that's right. San Jose State went big eyes when they were talking about streaming, and they were the first of the big
to
CSUs
do it.
to do MOOCs. Those huge MOOC classes, man, where
MOOC meaning what?
uh,
Mobile.
I forgot what it stood for. Let me see if I can find it. But it was huge
Yeah.
populations signed up for a single section, and
Yeah.
San Jose State went MOOC, massive open online courses, 3,000 plus online courses. Let's see, how many could you enroll today? Okay, that's just an enrollment thing. Free online courses,
Oh,
enrollment.
I like that.
Well, what
I like that
happened?
idea.
What happened was San Jose State went, and they were letting thousands of people in per section,
Mm.
right? And they're all crazy. I mean, people had that kind of discussion at SF State too, but the committee that I was on was about 2/3 old timers, and it wasn't so much that they were sticks in the mud; it was that they were highly
Yeah.
experienced at remote
Yeah.
teaching. Okay, and so they knew, one, that it was going to cost a lot to do that. Okay, because you needed support system at that time, right? Streaming wasn't as easy as it is now. You got platforms galore, right, to that you can stream with. Second thing was they felt that a lot of students wouldn't be accustomed to it and they'd fall out. They wouldn't, and that's exactly what happened at San Jose
They
State.
dropped out.
They had like
They dropped kids dropped out.
dropped out of the class,
Well,
40% failure rate. That's
see,
intolerable, man.
I think that's the bad side. Like if you teach, I taught adults video, and they were there. You know, the people who pay, they're there for the Zoom courses, but we're not talking about required, humanities, science. We're
Right,
talking
right,
about,
right.
elective type courses. But I can see where a journalism course you could teach, via
With thousands,
maybe not with thousands, but it depends. You could do it with thousands if you have sections that you can break off. And
there it is.
yeah, if you
There
have
it is.
breakout rooms and you have TAs, but it takes some coordination, and it also takes everyone's on good Wi-Fi and everyone's on good behavior. It's tough. I would try it with. I have been to big, massive conferences with up to 500 people, though, and I
Right.
can see it working as a class. But anyway, back to Fonz. It got so bad with the technology that I actually was on FaceTime with
Okay.
the guy in the room talking to and he was holding up the phone, the FaceTime phone, as I was talking to the audience, because
Through the phone? Via the
via the
phone?
phone to an audience of about
Oh god, that's
to
terrible.
about 20 people in the classroom. There were about 20 in the classroom. And then everyone who was trying to access it offline or online couldn't because they weren't set up for it. So it was very,
This was at Seattle, right? Seattle
yeah.
U?
And they had a bunch of technical problems at Seattle U, Wi-Fi wise. So I did manage to get across what I called my keynote speech. I did go back to these Emil Takeouts. I think number 370 or something. I talk, you know, I talk about what I said at Fonz, and so it was all right. I saved some money in terms of travel, but if I went there and I was over my fear of COVID, I wasn't at the time. I think it would have been better. We wouldn't have had that technical glitch, and then I would have done the thing I was going to do in the theater. I was
Well, it wasn't just your fear, though. I mean, Seattle had a spike right
Yeah,
around that
they
time.
did have a spike, and positivity rates were still about 17%, which is still much higher. I mean, this is the thing.
Right.
Positivity rates, even in places that you think, oh, they're doing okay, it's like 10 to 20%. Uh,
Right.
and people aren't like saying boo about it. Uh, when we were in deep pandemic, they were saying, oh, it should be positivity rate should be about 5. But if we're at
Mhm.
15, oh, they're alarmed. But now no more. The death. I still look at the death rates now per day,
Yeah, that's what.
and
Yeah,
we're at five. We were at 500, over 500 yesterday. We had been about between 450 and 500, like 470, 480. September 1st, over 500, over 500 deaths. That's like, and my analogy,
what's the geography for
it's
that?
the whole country,
Okay,
500,
right,
500
right,
deaths in the country. I just look at the New York Times, look at their charts. You can go by county too, and then you feel better
right. That's
if
right.
you go micro into the county. But if you go macro and say, what about the country? My analogy is an airplane. Airplane has about 200 people. You got 500 deaths in one day. That's like two and a half planes going down. If two and a half planes went
Right,
down right now, that would be a big story for days. If we had
right.
if we had two and a half planes going down each and every day, it would be like, oh my God, you got to kick out Buttigieg, the transportation sector. What's going on?
That's right.
You know,
Yeah,
there would be
yeah, it's all his
there would
fault.
be major alarms going off. But 500 deaths, COVID, we don't see them. They're not planes. They're not like not alarming anybody. And but I'm alarmed. I say, wow, we got a lot of COVID out there, but no one
Yeah, we
pays
do.
attention. Not to
Well, and this, the last two variants infected people
yeah
faster,
yeah
and what my wife, who was a medical
yeah.
industry worker, she's an X-ray tech. She is concerned about long
Oh
term
yeah, you should.
effects, especially on older people, and that's where the long term effects are showing the worst
No, she
problems.
should be concerned about that. I the stories I'm reading now are about people who have long term, and they're like going crazy. They don't know how to deal with it.
Right.
So yeah, my heart goes out to all those folks, and I think that the only thing you can do is it's this is the extension, another metaphor of the safe sex idea. It's safe living, and my God, the people have called the face mask a kind of face condom, but I this is one of the reasons I just dislike Ron DeSantis. He was at a thing where he saw some kids and they were wearing masks, and he bullied them. Bullied.
Yes, he did.
Yeah,
I saw
it
that.
was like it's disgraceful.
There were school
Yeah, school
kids.
kid. It's disgraceful. And the other thing is when that that chart, the chart that we were showing, showing how people are dropping their guard. This is the dropping of their guard. The very liberals were like, oh, they were stalwarts. We believe in science. We're gonna fight this. They're dropping their guard and they're down to here. They were up here in the high 40s. Now they're in the low 30s. And look at everyone. Everyone else has dropped their guard. And I just think this is an example of conformity. This is conformity. And
Yeah,
who wants to be a conformist? This is the time to be an individual to say, "Hey, I'm going to I'm going to root for science, I'm going to root for health, I'm going to root for public health, I'm going to keep my mask on." This is a clear sign that no, people are conforming. It's sad.
yeah, yeah.
So, and
I think there even among people who aren't necessarily doing it for what people call ideological
yeah.
reasons. I mean, I have a hard time even using the term ideology to describe the Republican Party because there really isn't an ideology over there. If you talk about ideology as essentially a politically grounded philosophical paradigm, right? That's what it is. It's supposed to be a philosophical paradigm in a political environment, right? That's ideology, and they don't have that because they don't believe in the Constitution. They can't. You can't. Biden said it. You can't do what these people are doing and then tell me that you believe in the Constitution because you're mashing all
Yeah,
over
it's
it. And
yeah.
that actually is an element in my class. And I cite the circum without talking about which party is doing it. I cite the behavior, right? And I cite their position on certain law cases and in the pushing particular, especially initiatives, right? State initiatives and stuff like that. I don't talk about the party. I just talk about what it's for, what the goal is, and what they want to do, right? And then we disclose what the parties are that originated these things. And I'll be honest with you, a good quarter of the class gets upset
Yeah. Well,
because they identify with being Republican and being quote
well, people
conservative.
don't know how to argue uh, in the name of the public good. People don't know how to argue in in,
They don't know what the public good
in
is. They're not looking
oh,
for the
they're
public
looking
good. They're
good for
thinking
me. This is
exactly individualism is the core of political behavior and political
and
thought.
yet they're all conformists. They're not
Yeah.
actually
Well, it depends on what they're conforming to, right? If they're conforming to something that seems to allow a greater degree of freedom and a lesser degree of responsibility, then they'll conform to that.
definitely a lesser degree of responsibility.
There you go.
And because this is the thing about Jackson. We talk about the water, we talk about the infrastructure. Conservatives don't want to pay for anything. They'll have their own water. They'll have their own water
Well,
system.
they don't want to pay for anything. White conservatives don't want to pay for anything, especially if it benefits people of
Yeah,
color.
and that's where the racism comes in. So this is why we need someone strong, someone who believes in equality, someone who I mean, look, someone who believes in the Constitution, but we know that there are some racist aspects of the Constitution. We've had to change those with amendments, but they were there. The founding fathers weren't pure. Founding fathers weren't saints. So, so anyway,
Yeah,
Dan.
now
Uh,
they tell us. Now they tell us.
so on that note, no, that's a wrong sound. I didn't mean see I always get that. I meant to do this sound.
That's
That's a wrong
the
sound.
air wipe.
Yeah, every time it resets, like when I had when I pulled out my plug, I pulled the plug on my own show. That's what happened.
You know
Um,
what you got to do? I don't know. You should find the sound effect for one of the superheroes taking off. Launching from the ground. Yeah,
taking off and launching,
yeah, launching off the ground.
like but I don't have that sound. I have this sound. I have this sound. I have this sound.
No,
I,
you could use that one if you're going to quote somebody on, if you're going to quote a tweet.
are
Use that.
the electrical cord of life
Of liberty.
of
The
liberty.
electrical cord, the electric, not
The
electrical, but electric cord of liberty. It's just
elec-
really
I
still sparks in our hearts. It's a good thing you reminded me of that. It says still sparks in our hearts.
oh my
And
god.
I say, if the electric cord is sparking, dude, that's a short. And your house is gonna burn freaking down. Okay.
That's no good. I look. I found a superhero taking off.
Nah, man, that's like angelic. An angel takes flight.
That's not a superhero. Oh, here's a
No,
superhero.
no, it could be. I mean, you could say that.
Here's a superhero taking off. Okay.
No, it
That's
sounds too foreboding.
for okay. It's a for okay. How about this? Okay. I
That's not bad. It's closer.
closer. Okay.
Closer. Yeah,
Hey Dan. One thing we haven't talked about football. We haven't talked about the Jimmy Garoppolo.
yeah. Garoppolo staying on and being number two.
Yeah. What I
I thought of that possibility, and I didn't say anything because I thought people would, really get on my case.
yeah.
But I thought of that possibility. I thought, what happens if nobody really wants to pick the guy up, and
Yeah.
they're still holding the bag and paying him. And maybe he's second, and Purdy is on, right? Because everybody liked Purdy, even though he's
But
not.
what happened to Sudfeld?
They're not talking about Sutterfeld anymore.
I mean,
I
but
mean,
did they
you
cut
got
him?
three guys now. You got three guys now.
But did they cut Sudfeld?
I don't know if they cut him, but I think they will, because
Uh,
everybody's talking about Purdy, even though he's shorter.
I know they talk about Purdy, but
The
Sudfeld
guy's
is.
amazingly accurate. It's just that he made the same kind of mistake that.
Oh, you know what? They traded him.
Yeah.
I think he's with Detroit now.
Well, he's good. I mean, there's no question. He's good. He could be a first stringer, but
I think Sudfeld is real good, and I like him because he's from the Central Valley.
yeah, that's true. He's a California guy.
Yeah, 3 days ago they said they were keeping Purdy over Sudfeld. I
And
don't get it. I don't. I don't get it.
I think they liked Purdy's mobility, and he's pretty accurate. I mean, he threw one INT, but um, he just really didn't see the guy. He's got to learn how to see that better. It was really I saw when you see his throw
Yeah.
from his perspective, right? The guy that intercepted was right behind a lineman.
Uh,
So this huge lineman, is
yeah.
maybe 10 feet in front of him, and the guy who intercepted the ball is another, like 15 yards down the line. He didn't see him at all.
Well, look. Here's the thing. Who's younger? I guess Purdy's younger, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the thing. Sudfeld is considered. I mean, he is tall. He's like 6'5".
He's tall. Yeah.
And that's a good size. I mean, you get.
He could see over a lot of the guys.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I don't play quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, I would. I'd rather be the scat back they give the. Hey, but all right. So I figured I sort of think that this was the best way, but Garoppolo gives up all the money, right? Or does he restructure it so he gets the money
I
deferred?
think he restructured. I think because they want to keep under their salary cap, and I think he was willing to take a cut.
So, but he could get it ultimately, right? Get the
Get
money
what
deferred.
ultimately?
I mean, the money that was due him or owed him.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what arrangement they made.
Because I think he doesn't have that money if no one wants him, right?
That's right. That's right.
So he says, okay, I'll take less money. Look, after you make 6.5 million or whatever he's making now, as opposed to 17, what's I don't want to say that $10 million is not significant. It is, but after a while, especially if that's not your value, you could have asked for 17, but if no one's bidding on him,
Yep,
you don't got 17.
that's right. If he gets to play enough and he shows, it could take one season, right? If he gets to play enough so that people have confidence not only in his ability but in his health, right? That which affects his ability, then all that stuff will come back.
Well, yeah. One of the things though is that he's he's good at what he does, which is just short passes. A lot of dinky passes, and
Right. Dinky.
he's
Short,
won.
short, short, and mid range. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a dinky passer, but uh, the thing about the NFL, people get hurt,
Yep. That's right.
especially if you have running quarterbacks.
Right.
So, I mean, Trey Lance, I think he's going to get hurt.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. I
I'm not.
hope not, of course, and I'm sure you do too. But he runs a lot of slants, right? And so
Yeah,
he doesn't. He's not. He doesn't pretend to be a brick.
yeah. I don't. I'm not saying that. I'm not wishing him to be hurt, but in the way he plays,
That's right.
the way, and
Out
they're
of
going
out
to
of the pocket. When you get out of the pocket, you're gonna get smacked.
and the way that the Shanahan plays his team. I mean, look at Debo Samuel. I mean, he gets he gets banged up. He
That-
during the drive last year to as they're trying to get to the Super Bowl. Man, he got banged up pretty well in all those games. Green Bay,
yep.
uh, the other the championship game against the Rams. I mean, there was a time when he was like it looked like he was just
It was
bailing.
amazing. It was amazing that he got up. I mean, there were a couple of times when he got smacked really hard, and I was amazed that he got up. You could tell he was a little gimpy.
Yeah, yeah,
He was still very game.
yeah, and he's getting paid,
Yeah.
and going along with everything. So I wish the 49ers well. After this baseball season, we'll be giving them all the attention, because I'll tell you, I'm kind of football starved now,
Right.
because I was rooting for Fresno State last night.
Okay.
And it was a good game. They've got a good quarterback. Fresno State has a good quarterback, good running backs. They've got a great receiver, and I think I'm going to be a Bulldog fan. I think I'm going to be a Fresno State rooter in the CSU system over San Jose State. They're
Right.
both in the Mountain West, and Fresno State beat Cal Poly yesterday.
Right. Right.
It was good. It was a good game, and Fresno.
I'm gonna have to. Now you made me want to see if I can find it and play it.
Yeah, you should watch the first quarter when Fresno State goes up 21 to nothing. I mean, they really cream, and then they slow down, because that's the way you come out with a full head of steam, and then you slow down. They only won like 35-7, but they were in control the whole game. So Fresno, I didn't watch the San Jose State game. I just
What do you mean they only won by? That's a blowout, man.
no, it was, but it could. But if you saw how they played in the first quarter, you'd say, "Oh my God, these guys are going to win! Like this is going to be like the Alabama of the."
The
Uh,
Crimson Tide.
yeah, well, they were wearing the kind of purple of the Crimson Tide, so I think they're going to surprise people, and they got the old Cal coach, Jeff Tedford,
Oh yeah, yeah.
is over there. So no, so I'm going to be bullish on Fresno State over San Diego State, and over San Jose State for the Mountain West. And but they play USC 2 weeks from now,
Ooh.
and that'll so if you thought they played well against Cal Poly, well, of course Cal Poly is not that good, but USC, they'll probably be creamed 55-0. So there goes
Let's see.
my prediction.
Yeah, but they're going to get up to it now. See, now they're going to be.
Maybe, I don't know. I think Fresno State's going to be, as they say, a dark horse. But I'm all for college football, even though I was a little dismayed that you know the $1 billion, how much, like $10 billion to the Big Ten for football rights. It's a lot of money.
10 billion.
It's a lot. It's a
Jesus.
billions of dollars, maybe $1 billion a year. I mean,
Who
huge.
left? Who left? The
The Pac-10,
Yeah.
UCLA and USC have left the Pac-10,
Right.
and
And
I
so
say
is it the Pac 8 right now?
it's like Pac nothing. I mean, they're hurting,
Right.
and the regents are trying to figure out how to let UCLA go. I think they shouldn't let UCLA go without paying the price. What do you think?
How do you?
You're a professor.
What price can they pay?
Well, I mean, because UCLA is leaving, they made a law. The regents made a rule that presidents or chancellors, individual chancellors, can do these contracts independent of the regents. They could do it unilaterally, and hell with the regents. And then they kind of have reneged on that because they know that UCLA leaving the Pac-10 would mean maybe millions of dollars lost to
The
UC
Pac-10.
schools,
Yeah, sure.
to UC schools.
That's right.
So
The rest of the system.
yeah, and
So
so
that was a dumb thing for them to
yeah, they
allow
did
that.
it. They did it in the 80s. It was not like a recent
Like
thing.
recent, right?
Yeah, it wasn't. It was like they did it. They made the ruling that the chancellors could be independent, but now the regents are saying, "Oh, we can't do that now." And I hope
I bet you Prop 13 had something to do with them allowing that in the 80s because
Well, I don't know.
everybody was in
Probably.
a world of hurt. Our budgets were in a world of hurt.
Well, now UCLA's budget's still in the world of hurt, and they're looking forward to the Big Ten contract coming through.
That's why they
Of
did it.
course,
Yeah.
yeah, of course they don't leave totally until like 2020. I think 2023. This is their last year, but it's a big deal, and I think for colleges it's a big deal because I I think foot, football is too powerful. And if football is going to play, I think football has to pay the price in order to use the colleges and higher ed. Higher ed's got to be the boss, not football. That's the way I feel.
I think that train's already left, man.
Well, I
You know,
that's the feeling I get, but I think, man,
you know
I
why? Because the big schools are already really dependent on private industrial support as well. So so a lot of the those big schools, particularly UCLA, the UC system generally, but particularly the big four, they're research schools, and they get a lot of freaking money
the
from
corporates.
corporate. Yeah, and then there are all these issues: is who, if they develop something, who owns it, right? And so they make all of these deals that the public doesn't see. The classic model for that those issues is Gatorade.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
Uh,
know,
Florida State,
yeah, you
Florida,
got
University of Florida.
yeah, University of Florida, and it was yeah, the professors versus the college, right? The school, the
Right.
university.
Yeah, who owns the rights? Who owns the
That's
patent?
right. Who owns the rights? And if it gets into technical arguments about equipment but then part of that is also intellectual. You know,
Well, right now, the colleges have become the research institution for the NFL,
right. That's right.
and it's like, what is wrong with this picture? And I just hope that the regents, uh, exert their right as regents to like say to UCLA, you can go. It's going to cost you a price, and you got to make sure that your fellow UC schools, in particular Berkeley, you know,
Right.
aren't hurt, but all the other schools benefit. All the UC schools benefit from UCLA being in the Pac-10. But then when they leave to the Big Ten, you know, money's gone, and it's going to cost. So that's the balancing act there. I just I like football. I just see it as this is, as Joe Biden would say, the inflection point where college goes, like you said, you think it's too late. It's already happening.
Yeah.
But I like the what about the small schools? What about
Yeah.
and
A lot of them got wiped out with Title IX.
yeah,
Because you couldn't disfavor or look like you were disfavoring women's sports. And
yeah,
so SF State lost. I mean, they gave up football a long time ago.
yeah, right. And yeah, that's the thing. Title IX. Who can compete at the highest level with Title IX except the big money schools, the big state schools,
There you go.
Nebraska, Texas, Big Ten schools,
Right.
Iowa. So
Unless you start a local tradition, something like Stanford women's basketball, where they just win all the time, and you could be a small school that wins all the time, and
uh,
and a lot of the best players are going to want to go there. You keep your coach, you make enough money, and then you can pay them well. Remember when everybody discovered what coaches were making?
oh,
They're making way more than chancellors of whole university systems.
they're the highest paid state employees.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
know,
It's
the
ridiculous.
coach at Alabama,
Yeah,
highest paid state employee, millions of dollars.
yeah, yeah.
And I think, look, the Ivy League can really. do something if they made a pitch for Stanford to be
Hmm.
part of the Ivy League, and then that way you'd have like a national network of mediocre football because they don't have the Ivy League is the Ivy League not because they're smart or brainy or the landscaping. They're the Ivy League because there are no they don't believe in college scholarships or they don't believe in athletic scholarships.
Right,
So they
right.
don't just hand them out like candy. So if you had the Ivy League reach out to Stanford and say, come join us, now you would have a national network of schools, not just a regional New Englandy kind of base.
Right, right.
You might have uh, this is how the Big Ten blew up. The Big Ten said, "Oh, we can get Rutgers from the New York area. We got Chicago schools. We got the Midwest. We'll get USC and UCLA, and we'll form a super Big Ten, and we'll have national television audiences that networks will pay hundreds of millions of dollars for the
Sure.
rights."
A lot of people will watch that. Yep.
That's what they did. That's why $1 billion deal.
They're going to be able to sell a lot of shoes and a lot of beer.
Yeah, and right, and what you need is you need audiences coast to coast.
And don't
So
forget the
you can't have regional. You can't have
Subway. Subway, man.
you can't have Mountain West. You can't have far. You got to have Mountain West combined with some other mountain on the East Coast, and then you have and then you've created audiences. Anyway, that's what's happening to college
Suppose
football.
if they get to real mountains on the East Coast, it's like New Hampshire,
Ah,
in
yeah,
places
New
like that.
Hampshire or the Appalachians,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
some places
I was
Tennessee.
on a chairlift one time, and we're on the up. We're going up, and it was a four banger chairlift, just four people on the lift,
Yeah,
and I was by myself. My kids were somewhere else. Linda was somewhere else. We're close by, but we were on different chairs.
yeah.
And the people sitting next to me were just staring up, at the mountains. And I said, "Something tells me you're not from around here." And they said, "Yeah, we're from the East Coast." And I said, well, we're from Jersey. And I said, well, you got those resorts, in the hills, and well, that's exactly right. They call them mountains, but they're not like this. And I said, yeah, that one right there, that's over 12,000. So I understand.
I
But
I I
I've flown in to Newark and from Virginia, and and it was winter, so you could
uh,
see the snow right on the hills in Jersey. And I said, what's the problem with that? And they said, oh, you don't know, man. It's like ice. It's,
uh,
it's not like snow, like either corn. You guys complain about corn versus powder. The snow over there is like ice. So
yeah, you got to go to Vermont or
yeah,
someplace.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got to get up there and get some good snow. But anyway, we're way afield now. But yeah,
Yeah. Well, listen,
got real mountains. We got real mountains.
Dan, it is always nice to talk to you again, and I have the Emil Guillermo Orchestra.
Well, we cannot forget that we are at an inflection point. This is more serious than an inflection point. This is the people better get out and vote. I have great confidence that the younger crowd, the 18 and above, are going to come out and vote. The 18 to 30 group that notoriously, but Chris Christie got stomped on because I think last week he said, the youth vote. Biden made this attempt to
Oh, yeah.
do an end around, and with the
Student
with the
loans.
with the forgiveness, and it ain't gonna work because the 18 to 30s don't vote, and the 18 to 30s, obviously heard that, and they're yeah. I said, great, keep talking,
Yeah.
Chris.
Hey, look, we haven't even gotten to forgiveness. I like the compromise. It could have been more, but it should have been more. But it was a good start, and I think if they go,
Right, it is. It's moving in the
I
right
think,
direction, and we'll see what happens. We'll see how people
but if they
handle it.
go after the for profit private
There it is.
That's the problem. The
Yes, it
problem
is.
the
I mean,
problem isn't the cows and
all of the colleges or even the
right.
private schools. The problem is the
Yeah,
for-profit schools. And but see, people get confused because the for-profits say they're
they're
nonprofit,
not. Well,
right? They wear the nonprofit, and they're 501(c)(3)s technically, and they say, "Well, how can they make money?" And I said, "Nothing says they can't
yeah.
profit. Just because they're a nonprofit doesn't mean that they can't make a lot of money and then spread that around among their administration and they're just not shareholders. They don't
Yeah,
sell
I mean,
stuff, right? Yeah,
Harvard is a nonprofit corporation, but
sure,
they've got like 50 billion in endowment. I mean,
sure.
so look, you can be a nonprofit and be very profitable. What I think people need to be aware of is all these fly by night. Uh, yeah, the
Absolutely.
private.
You mean like the orange guy's former
No, no,
university?
no, no. I'm talking about one around where I am called Stellar Career University. I
Sure.
think Stellar Career University needs to be taken down. Well, look, I don't want to cast aspersions on them because there's a lot of legitimate. I don't know. Some have
Well,
to be
there was a
legitimate,
whole
but there's a
chain.
lot of real
There
shady
was a whole
ones. There's
chain. There was an entire chain of so-called private
yeah.
universities that did business under the name
Oh yeah,
Corinthian. You remember
Corinthian
that?
is one. ITT Tech.
Yeah.
How about the
Yeah,
other
yeah.
Westwood College? Westwood, like
Right, right,
UCLA.
right.
No, Westwood, like we're going to promise you the world and give you nothing, lead you to a college loan that you default on, and then no follow up to make sure that we make good on the guarantee that we promised you that you'll have a job for
Yeah,
life.
have you checked in on what's happening with Academy of Art College? That's another winner.
I would like to think that they were a little better, but I don't know. I know that they did a lot of foreign. Are they having some problems?
No, I don't know. They certainly. I call them the Academy of Art
Yeah, I
Realty.
think that's they
You know?
they like they were smart. They bought up real estate, and the real estate did better than the education.
Yeah, they got in cheap and they bought locations that had been open
Yeah.
for a while.
No,
So
they're
yeah,
the thing. I think basically they're a legit school, but they charge.
they are. I mean, I know some good artists that
They,
came out of there, but how many? How many people can do that and then get a gig,
they
right?
charge full freight to mostly foreign students, and maybe they give a break to some domestic types. But the fact is, um, there's some good ones. There's some bad ones. There are a lot more bad ones, and the bad ones are
Sure. I got. Do you got relatives that
oh,
did
of
heels?
course, Healed
Yeah. See,
Healed is the
that's
place.
what.
I mean, and Healed went down. Healed was not
Yeah.
uh, as reputable as we would like to think. I guess it can work for some.
In
Yeah,
later
and some
days.
people would say,
Yeah.
yeah, it worked for me or work, but they went down. I
Sure.
remember when I was
Sure.
surprised, but there's a lot of these for-profit private colleges, and they are just they
You're talking about something that I used to take up as a major topic,
yeah
pre-Trump.
yeah
But what the Republicans and everybody was
yeah
doing, takes up so much space. I mean, it's
yeah.
like
Hey,
they crowd everybody out, man, right off the front
so look,
page.
Dan, and
All
look,
right, man,
take
gotta
care.
go. Thanks for having
We'll
me
see you
again.
again
It's
next week.
it feels like a
Yeah,
reunion.
we'll talk some more next time. But thank you for
Yeah.
being here, Daniel
You,
Phil.
thank you for having me. Thank you for
Well,
being
you're
had.
you're you're, you're welcome. And I'll send you links to the what I said at Fonts. Okay,
Right
all right,
on.
there he goes.
All
Daniel
right.
Phil Gonzalez, my friend, College of Ethnic Studies, the emeritus professor, Asian American Studies, Cal State University, San Francisco State. We just go off, and I haven't seen him in a while, so it was good to see him now. And what do you know? I think I hope we didn't cut us off when I was like trying to go for my air purifier. Anyway, look, regular listeners to the show know that when Dan's on, we go on long. But we end our show with a little meditation. So, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. And may you live with ease. Labor Day weekend coming up. Enjoy your holiday. We possibly will be back on Monday. Right here, live, 2 p.m. Pacific. Catch the replays on amok.com, on YouTube, on my pathetic YouTube channel. Just go there and like us or listen to all the shows there. This is Emil, Amok's Takeout 381. Oh, 370. Those were good shows. The 370 series. Catch us on Twitter at Emil Amok and also on Facebook, the Facebook page. Facebook.com/EmilGuillermo.media. Join us again. Till next time.